And the person that processes the recording, Krishna, he's on vacation. So after he comes back, then we'll process it. And 2 weeks ago, we had this session by some people talking about themselves. But I just realized that there were no ladies in that session. And there are quite a few ladies that are, I would like to hear more about what they do, and educate and inform people of Shri Yoga about their activities. And so that's why I have this session, and we'll have some similar sessions continued, whenever there is some time available. So with that, I'm really happy to have about six of these very smart ladies that are going to tell us what they do and their activities. So let's start with Malini. I probably know Malini for more than 30 years, but more recently, since after COVID, then she started attending regularly the pranayam and easy classes of Shri Yoga. So Malini, please tell us about yourself and any other activities. Overall, I'm just suggesting about 10 minutes for each person, but it can go a little bit over, it doesn't matter. Okay. Thank you very much, Malini.
Thank you.
Let me spotlight you for everyone. So, okay, go ahead.
Okay. Namaste, everybody. Welcome. I was really pleasantly surprised when Guruji asked me to say a few words about myself. I didn't know what was the different about my life or my story other than anybody else. But whatever it is, I thought I'll share it with you. I was born in Gwalior, India, Madhya Pradesh at that time. Excuse me. And then moved to Bombay after the war. My father was an engineer in ordnance factory, so he used to move from place to place. But after we moved to Bombay, I stayed from 1946 to 1960. And funnily enough, my whole life was actually a natural flow and not anything planned or envisioned life. It just happened that way. So I had lots of happy, lucky surprises, accidents, you may call it, that I came up to here. Incidentally, my best friend, who was in college with me, she was the reason I came here in the first place in 1960. I was given opportunity to work, earn and learn in blood banking in Philadelphia. I was a graduate of microbiology in Mumbai. And then after I came here, I worked in blood bank, clinical chemistry, research chemistry, and went home in 1962 after, excuse me. Then I got back home. I started working on my another master's program in Mumbai in GMC, that's medical college. And but then I got married the next year. My husband was working on his MD. So we waited for a year, and after he was done, we came back here in 1964 to Kansas City, Missouri. It was a very limited, small town at that time. And he was working as a resident there. And I was working as a med tech because that's what I was trained for in Philadelphia. And then I started working on my master's in microbiology in UMKC. And but then I had a baby in 65. And in 66, my husband got a fellowship in John Hopkins. So he came over here and I stayed back with my baby and working, trying to finish my, my master's. And after that, 1967, I finished. I came to join him in Baltimore, and eventually we ended up in Washington. So we didn't have visa. Our visa was J1 at that time. It was exchange visitor visa. I talked about uh, lucky breaks or lucky surprises. We were just touring Washington, and we thought we will go back home because that was the requirement of exchange visitors visa. So we were touring Washington, and we were visiting Washington Embassy. And when we were looking around there, two of us, me and my husband, we were talking in Marathi. And there was a lady. She came back and she said, "Are you from Pune?" And she was from Pune. So my husband said yes. And they started talking. They had some common people that they knew of. And she invited us that day for dinner. At that time, we were without visa. Well, not really without visa, but it was due to expire pretty soon, and we were just trying to go home. And then she invited us. We went there for dinner. She had invited another Dr. Upadhyay, and so just to introduce, and then they started talking. My husband and Suresh Upadhyay started talking, and he found out the situation that we were in. So he said, "Hold on, I will talk to my department chairman and then see what we can do about it." And then uh, it was about a week. Every day we called, and every day he said, "Oh, just hold on, just hold on." There was a freeze, and that freeze was supposed to be lifted next week. And then it did. And then my husband got a job and a visa also. So that was a real lucky break. We did not expect that. We were all packed up to go back. But after that, so November 67, we are here in Washington area. And then I started working in a company that was contracting NIH contracts. And I was working there. I had a Korean boss. And he asked me, "Malini, why don't you apply for a visa, immigration visa?" And I said, "We are on J1, I cannot apply. We have to go back, at least go out of the country for a couple of years." He said, "Well, let's just work on it. Let's try." So he applied, and I got a letter from Labor Department rejecting it. And I said, "Why rejecting?" So they said, "When you are a graduate degree from this country, you come under third preference and not the sixth preference, because my boss had applied under sixth preference." So that was, I don't know what that was, but that was different category. So we applied again, and I got the approval. And then my husband got the approval. He didn't apply, but he got approval because of me. And so that was another lucky thing. Then about 2 years ago, 2 years later, we didn't hear anything. We got the approval letter, and it was Vietnam War was going on, and at that time doctors had to register their name before 35, 6 months before they finished year 35. So that was approaching. And my husband said he should register, but he has to have visa. So then we called Baltimore office, and they said that we don't have your files. So we gave them the numbers and everything, and they said, okay, we will look for it. And 3 days later, somebody called and said, they said, oh yeah, that file was just stuck under the other files in the drawer. We found it, and you will get the visa. And by then, he had finished 35, so he didn't have to go to Vietnam. So that was another thing. So one thing after the other, our life was just directed by destiny, I should say, because we did not envision that we will have this kind of life in this country, because neither of us really were looking to go out or anything. And then when the kids came over, my second one was born. She was premature, so I had to take care of her. I stayed home. I left my job. I stayed home. And then for a few years, I was out of touch of the subject. So I decided to try something else, and I took this small computer course, which I didn't care for much. But I did work in a Dynamic company that was Dynamic at that time. I don't think it is there anymore. Uh, but yes.
No, no, go ahead. Go ahead. You don't need to
Oh,
answer the question, please. Uh,
no, after that, then I left that, and I wanted something of some flexible time, not job, but profession. And I looked into real estate, and that was 1988. And then I started doing real estate, and I did that until about 10 years ago. So that's my life story. And on side, we started Marathi Kalamandal that happened to be in my house in 1976. And a lot of people activities like plays, dance, music concerts. We both were fond of classical music. So we had lots of classical music concerts in our basement. And the biggest one I remember was not classical, but it was Sri Ramchan. And nobody had a big basement at that time that was they made available to them. And that was the biggest thing I remember. It was Tuesday, middle of the week, and just on Monday we found out that we could have him, and we had our we had mics everywhere, in and out of the house and garage and everywhere. And I have never ever made that much coffee in my life, because I don't even know how many people just came in, and it was a real nice, enjoyable concerts we had. So we had fun. I had a good life, and I would be much grateful for everything I have and for the life I had. Unfortunately, I lost my husband 10 years ago, but what can we do? So that's my story. Okay, namaste. Thank you very much.
yeah, thank you very much, Malini. And no, she was the when we had the BMM convention in this area, she was the leading that kind of activity as a member of kind of Marathi.
Convener.
Yeah. Okay.
Was the convener of him, and then There was a co-convener, Mr. S.N. Pandit, and he was the great asset to the community.
Thank you very much, Malini.
Thank you.
So next we have, uh, let me just make Madhuri Hegde. And both Madhuri and Ramchandra have been regularly attending this. Now, we had the session in last February in Atlanta, and so we had 2 days of the sessions, and after that both of them are very regular. And I didn't know much about Madhuri, but I know that she is doing some fantastic work, and so I would like to hear more from her about what she does and her activities. Thank you very much, Madhuri. Okay. Okay.
Thank you, Kaka, and thank you for asking me to speak. Happy Holi, everyone. So uh, I am originally from Mumbai. Um, I was born there. Uh, for those of you who are from Mumbai, you'll probably relate to this. I went to King George, then to Ruia College, then to UDC. Um, I met Ram, and after we got married, we actually immigrated to New Zealand. I was doing my PhD at that time, so I did my BSc in microbiology, MSc in microbiology at uh, RUIA and then UDCity. But I wanted to always get into genetics, and my PhD was a combination PhD between BARC and Bombay Hospital. The reason I sort of wanted to do genetics was when I was in sixth grade. So my family is all in the field of my father's side of the family in pharmacy and medicine. And I still remember this very clearly. Saturday we used to have school, and my uncle called me and asked me to switch on the TV, and they were showing how to extract DNA. That stuck with me, and since then I always wanted to do genetics. But in Mumbai at that time there was not, so this is early 90s, there was not a degree in genetics. So I started doing my PhD at BRC and Bombay Hospital, but when we immigrated to New Zealand, I finished my PhD at University of Auckland in genetics. And after that, I was running the genetic testing laboratory at Auckland Hospital. At that time, my mentor, she had just returned from Mayo Clinic, and she mentioned to me about clinical genetics. So I applied for a postdoctoral fellowship to Baylor College of Medicine, and we came over to Houston. Fortunately, Ram at that time was able to get a company transfer from New Zealand to Houston, and I did my postdoctoral fellowship at Baylor College of Medicine in genetics. And then I went on to do the American Board of Medical Genetics and Genomics. It's called ABMGG. I'm a board certified geneticist. So we were at Baylor. I finished my postdoc. We were in Houston for 6 years. And then Emory University in Atlanta recruited me from Baylor to come over and lead the Emory Genetics Laboratory. And I'll talk about the field of genetics a little bit and how it is interesting. Um, but I came over as an assistant professor at Emory University, and I was also running the Emory Genetics Lab. Emory Genetics Lab is the oldest genetics lab and the first genetics lab in the US. It was at that time 45 years old when I took it over. So I was the executive director of Emory Genetics Lab and a full professor at in the Department of Human Genetics at Emory University. And my research has always been in the field of neuromuscular disorders. So about in 2014, I never really thought, I thought, I was going to stay at Emory and, do all my work at Emory in research and clinical. But in 2016, the CEO of PerkinElmer, some of you might know PerkinElmer, it is a reagents and tools company, and they asked me to come over to PerkinElmer. It took me 2 years to sort of make this decision to go from academia to industry, but I finally took that step. And the idea was that I was going to run the clinical laboratories similar to Emory Genetics Lab, but global laboratories. in India, China, UK, Sweden, and US. So now I'm running 5 clinical genetics labs globally, and also the chief scientific officer of PerkinElmer. PerkinElmer recently changed its name. It is now called Revity. And the unique thing about PerkinElmer is that PerkinElmer is really known for newborn screening. So for those of you who know that when babies are born in hospital, the first test the babies get is that heel prick test. Many people think of it as a PKU test, but that test is for about 29 genetic diseases which are preventable, meaning if early intervention is done, the child, the baby can have a normal life instead of dying within 24 to 48 hours or living a vegetative state. A very, very important test. It's a heel prick, a single drop of blood on a dried blood spot card, and that's what is done. So about 150 million babies are born globally, about 140 to 150 million, out of which only 50 million babies today receive this test. So obviously, one of the goals is to make sure that this test is received by more and more babies. Today in India, only in few pockets in Delhi, in Kerala, this test is done. So in our India lab, we are trying to promote this. So going back to genetics a little bit, so there are about 22,000 genes in our body, about 7,000 genes, only 7,000 genes today, we know they cause some form of a disease. So there is a huge movement, you might have heard and read it in media a lot, about human genome sequencing. So when the human genome sequencing was completed in 2002, it cost us over $1 billion. But today we can sequence our human genome in $200. So there's a lot of movement now that is happening where you can sequence the baby's genome at birth, and then you track the baby's genome throughout their lifespan. So there are two forms of diseases, right? Genetic diseases, which are inherited from our parents, and then gene environment interaction, which we can control through doing what we are learning through Kaka with pranayam, yoga, and living a lifestyle, so that we do not get the lifestyle diseases. So the inherited genetic diseases is what sort of my specialization is in. And there are many forms of inherited diseases. So those many of them fall in the category of rare diseases. About 7,000 rare diseases are known today. And obviously, many of these diseases are so rare, like 1 in 200,000, 1 in 300,000. Many of them are N is equal to 1. So it's really important to fight for these patients and help them. There are many advocacy groups we work with. So that is my work. I try and remain involved with advocacy groups, as I just mentioned, helping with, there are many initiatives going on in cell and gene therapy. So I try and remain involved in getting these patients the help they need. I serve on the American Board of Medical Genetics Board of Directors, and that is really for education, bringing in new people into the field of genetics and educating them. Obviously, I'm very interested in the gene environment interaction, and I had dabbled in yoga a little bit here and there, but really thankful to Kaka that I've really been able to make it a very regular exercise now. I travel a lot for work, and with Kaka's recordings, I have really not very, unless I'm in a flight and I simply cannot do pranayam, but still I try. But I have his recordings with me and I try and do it as much as possible. Also, Ram and I are very heavily involved in Chinmaya Mission. We really started Chinmaya Mission when we were in Houston, and we have continued to remain involved in Chinmaya Mission after we moved to Atlanta. We have one daughter. She lives in Durham. We are in Atlanta. She's a pediatric nephrologist. We try and visit them when possible. So this week she's on call. So whenever she's on call, Ram and I are in Durham helping them with their toddler, so that her hospital hours are very long. So we are here when she needs us. I think there's a question from Govindji about, would you suggest getting a genetic sequence done? and for everybody, since it is not very expensive now. So yes, I would recommend that, and that's becomes my very personal opinion. But now that genome sequencing can be done, I think there are two ways to look at it, right? Our genome is static in the sense that at birth, whatever changes in your DNA are there throughout your life. But as with environmental exposures, as the expression of our genes changes with time, and we can track that as we get exposed to different environments, we can understand what those changes are. So we recently published a paper in JAMA where we have done a sequencing on genome sequencing on babies at birth, toddlers, and even adults. And out of the cohort of 600 patients we published, we found 47 individuals who had high penetrance changes. So even, I think one of the most commonly known genes is BRCA1 and 2, which causes breast cancer. And there are many such genes. So we found a lot of those defects in these individuals. So I think with time, this is going to change. In the next 10 years or so, we are going to look at healthcare very differently. Genetic medicine, genomic medicine is going to sit front and center, and many babies at birth are going to get genome sequenced. But even today, you can get your genome sequenced at any age. I have obviously done my genome. I've done Ram's genome, and it's just my interest, and we got it done. What made you become spiritual? I think um, it's really the exposures over a period of time, and especially as being a geneticist, I've always wondered the sort of the other side. Genetics it's our DNA, but there are a lot more questions that are unanswered, and that's what made me become spiritual. Thank you, Kaka.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And again, as Madhuri mentioned, sometimes she's going to New Zealand and it may be 20, 24 hours on the travel, but she finds time to do the pranayam with the recording, thank you, Madhuri, and it's very nice to have both of you as part of Shri Yoga. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kaka.
All right. Sorry, I just want to make sure. So next one is Sonali, and Sonali is in Clarksburg, close to where I live, and I've known her how many? 15 years probably. Sonali, somewhere in that range. Okay.
Yes, Kaka, maybe more from since 2003 or like 2002, 3, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, so we used to have classes at her house also, and she's I know she's an excellent artist, and there are many other aspects of her, and what I would rather like her to talk about herself. So go ahead, Sonali, and let me just make sure that I make I replace the spotlight so that people can see you better. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you so much, Kaka. Thank you for having me. And namaskar, everyone. Hare Krishna. My name is Sonali Jog, and I live in Clarksburg, like Kaka said, with my 2 boys and husband, Ranjit Jog. Um, so many great, friends are here. So as compared to that, my story is very simple. I'm born, brought up in Aurangabad. It's in Maharashtra, and I grew up with my 4 siblings in a very enthusiastic, I will say, environment. My both parents were very artistic, and they were having so many interests that I got exposure very early. My father was he was a director, writer for many dramas. He was very much interested in Urdu, shairi. He was fond of reading, and my mother too was very artistic, and also they both were very I have a very strong spiritual background from both of my family side. So in a way I got lot of things were exposed at very young age, and then I realized that very much interested in, or my liking is towards my art or painting. but because my sister decided, so eventually I ended up doing engineering. But I found my life partner there in the engineering college. So that's a very simple life, as Malini Tai was mentioning, that it is like very go with the flow kind of a life. And after that, I was working as a lecturer in many engineering colleges, and we happened to come here, me and my husband. And then here, after coming this country, I gave birth to my first son, and I decided to stay home. So almost for 12 years, I was taking care of my both kids. I wanted like to give full attention to them. So I kept my career aside, and after like they turned like they were big enough, then I started my career. I'm working in a computer field, IT field, in a federal. I'm a fed contractor. So during that time when I was at home, and later also I was able to, kind of pursue all my hobbies. I was interested in drawing. I write poetry, and then I write various blogs also. But eventually I found out that my inclination is towards more spiritual scripture studies, and although those are my interest. I mean, something that like, I used to come, and that is where it was bringing me back. So I went to Chinmay Mission, then Swadhyay, and I ended up going to ISKCON, and then I started systematically studying these scriptures. So I'd been studying Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Ishopanishad, and Brihad Bhagavatamrut, and various scriptures from last 12 to 13 years. And whenever I used to read those and listen to all those stories and how they are beneficial, I always like to share it with others, and that's how I started so many classes. So I took in Marathi few classes, and for kids and whoever was interested, I was giving them this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, and we were doing this study like my first loka to end to end study in 2 to 3 years we completed. So after doing that for many years, then recently I was thinking of starting something for our community. And last Sunday only, like my father, he passed away. It was very hard for all of us, but my all the siblings and for me. But I experienced that because of this knowledge, I was able to really go through it very smoothly. I mean, it really helped me. This was really in practically implementing what is it called. I had that kind of a experience, and since then I was thinking about it, that it is not just that because of my liking or someone's liking you should study this scripture, but these are like manuals, and these are very important things. These are like something that you should and everyone must read it. We do so many things to make this life perfect, but the scriptures will give you guidance to how to make your even next life perfect, or how to do this transition, how to face death, and all these things I have been thinking about from past 8 days, after facing so much this tragedy. So so I really thought this is a really good opportunity to even share with Kaka and all of you that I'll be conducting it very soon, this 21 days Bhagavad Gita classes. But apart from that, I really want to thank Kaka for inviting me here. I know Kaka and Kaku since, like as he mentioned, so many years, and he's really spiritually very advanced, and he's just giving to our community for from so many years. So he also inspired me to give it back something little that I'm having it. Um, so that's all. Govind Kaka is saying something because of your spiritual personality. Let me just read that. Do you believe in rebirth? Yes, rebirth is definitely there, and it is given in our scripture. It's so many places, and how at the time of your death, whatever is your consciousness, you will reach there. I mean, you will get that kind of a birth. So it's kind of in your hand where you want to go, because the throughout your life, whatever consciousness you will develop, whatever activities you will do, that is what you will remember at the time of death. So that is how going to it that is where you are going to go. That is where you will be in the next life. And there are many stories and many places these examples are given. So yeah, thank you so much. I mean, I don't know what else to talk, Kaka. If you have anything, then I can add on to it. But I just want to end it here. Thank you so much. Hari Bol,
Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna, everyone.
I mean, she is very much spiritually developed. If you meet her and just see the tej she has on her face, and it's just she's just amazing person. So thank you very much, Sonali. Next we have Chetna Gola, and Chetna, I probably know her for since 2012 or somewhere in that range. And I mean, she has amazing yoga practice. I mean, she has been practicing yoga for more years than what I have been doing. I started in when I was 51, but she and overall her yoga practice is amazing, and there are many other things that the not Bharati and other things that she does, and so I will let her talk about herself. Thank you very much, Chetna. Okay. So let me make you spotlight you. Sorry.
Yes, mute me.
So replace spotlight. Okay. Go ahead.
First of all, thank you, Shri sir, for inviting me here. And I don't know what to say right now. I'll start by saying happy Holi to everyone. And what I can see is just like the colors of Holi, I'm learning that the people I meet just in yoga classes and some I don't meet or virtually, all of them have so much colors in them. And the kind of person I am right from the very childhood, I'm the person who sees colors in people. So I associate people with colors. That's the way. And I don't know any other way to describe my life but joy and happiness. So I don't think so. I've ever had any bad experiences in my life. I've always been a very fortunate person. I would say anything that came my way that was not to my liking or to my expectations, they still turned out to be experiences that taught me something. So I was born in old Delhi in India. That's the older part of Delhi. That's the Mirza Ghalib's hometown. That's where I was born. And the culture of Delhi is very rich with poetry and all kind of creative arts, if you may call it. So I grew up with just hearing this Urdu words in my mind, lot of beautiful poetry around me, and people in Delhi that time, even my grandparents and everybody, talked in a language which was so laced with all these poetic expressions. So I grew up with that. So I am more artistic than spiritual. I don't know. But so my father was an architect, but he was also like a very good singer. He used to sing all the time. So he made all of us children go through classical training as little children. And my mom was an art teacher. She was a teacher in school event, and then she became a principal of the school. So we came from a family where um, they also were involved in some freedom fighting activities. So it was like all a mixture of all sorts of experiences. Um, so I grew up like that. For my profession, I went to an architecture college in Delhi, School of Planning and Architecture, did my architecture. And right after that, I got married and came to this country. I'm married to Yatin and very happy, almost 37 years now. And I had twin boys in 89. And I mean, they are grown up now, they're on their professions. But in this country, my profession became very specialized. So I'm a healthcare designer. I started designing labs and hospitals and cath labs and operating theaters and stuff like that. So that's my profession, which is totally different from the person I am. I am a very creative person. I love singing, dancing, painting. And in 1996, I by chance got in or found out about this organization called Natya Bharati, which is actually completing its 40th year, and that's like a local theater group. So that was my outlet besides my like children and home and my work. So I got associated with it. I did a lot of plays. I have been in the executive committees. I have directed short films and plays, and that's where my life is right now. In 2020, when COVID came, that brought a very big surprise for me. I'm a breast cancer survivor as well. But to me, just being a healthcare designer where I had designed all these labs all my life professionally. And when I was under those lights and when I was experiencing the surgeries, the surgical lights, the radiation machines, and I felt like, oh my gosh, what a mission I'm on. If I design these spaces and places for these people, I mean, they're the ones who are getting benefited, and it saved my life. So both my boys, they are radiologists. So to them, when they were talking to me in that because radiology was very important for me that time because of the breast cancer, and learning about medicine on the table and not actually designing it was amazing. So to me, it was like the most wonderful experience. Um, and from there, now I just do all kind of creative stuff. I'm still working full time. I work for NIH, and feel that I'm very lucky because NIH has the cutting edge technology for everything they do, all different kind of institutes that they have. And I learn a lot about. And when Madhuri was talking about the genetics, I also got my, genetic testing done to find the breast cancer genes or something, just to make sure that my children are not at risk or anything. Luckily, I mean, it was all good. So currently, I met Sri sir by chance. One of my friends, they had been looking for some yoga teacher, and I think they met Sri sir at Sri Shiva Vishnu Temple in 2011, 2012, something like that. And they invited Sri sir to come to their house and start yoga in the basements, in their basement. And there was a limit of like 13 people could only fit, but was a max. And every Friday there was a mad rush to like sign up for one of the 13 spots. And look at Shri Yoga now, it's like everywhere in everybody's home, and virtual COVID changed that. I started yoga when I was almost like 17 or 18 years old. That was my first exposure. And but because I came to this country when I was 24, I did not find anything. There were no classes or not very conveniently available classes to go to yoga, and I wanted to continue. So my Guruji at that time had given me like this small cassette tape with his voice recording on it for a yoga class, and that's what I did for the next whatever 30 years, 25 years, and then I met Sri Sir. So all I can say that philosophy of my life is love. I think we talked about it the last time we met, Teresa. And to me, everything happens if you love everything around you, embrace life. And that's what I do. Professionally, I'm still working as an architect. And I also have a channel, a YouTube channel called Take Two Creations that I created, and where I invite uh, everybody to come and join and talk about themselves. And now, listening to you wonderful ladies before me, I feel I have to absolutely do a session and talk about passions in life. And I think that's all I have to say. I'm just fortunate. I don't know. I have a lot of families, my friends, my yoga family, my creative family, my theater family, and I have no complaints in life. I don't know. I don't think beyond that. I just enjoy every moment that comes my way. That's my life story.
Wonderful, very nice, Chetna.
That's
And
all,
again,
Shri.
just look at the Tech Two, YouTube channel, and so I'm sure Chetna is may invite some of you too. on
I'll
the
definitely invite everybody. I think this is a wonderful, wonderful. I'm like just feeling so like happy right now to listen to these wonderful, excellent, I mean, accomplished ladies. I mean, and I'm always for woman power. So happy.
Thank you very much, Chetna. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Very good. Excellent. Okay. All right. So next we have Sushma Bhosle, and she's also working at NIH. Looks like there are many people are related to NIH here. So Sushma, let me make you spotlight you. And again, Sushma, it's kind of after Atlanta trip. The somebody from Atlanta informed her. She's in close to in Urbana in Maryland, but she didn't know about Shri Yoga. But someone from Atlanta mentioned to her about Shri Yoga, and that's when she joined. And now she joins, her husband joins, and also her daughter is very much into teaching kids classes and so on. So Sushma, thank you very much for joining, and please tell us about yourself.
Thank you, Kaka. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk on this Shri Yoga platform. And it was wonderful listening to all the ladies who are leading and who have accomplished so much in the life. So to begin my journey, I'll just talk about like from the beginning. I originally am from Mumbai, and I studied my bachelor's of science, bachelor's in chemistry from Ruia College, and then I did my master's from Nair Medical College. It's TN Medical College associated with Nair Hospital. And I can see a smile on Madhuriji's face. She's also from Riya. So this was a good, I was always interested in science. And then during my master program, I got an opportunity to work as a summer trainee in Cancer Research Institute, which was of Tata Memorial Hospital. And I used to work as a trainee there under some PhD students, and I was very excited to do all those technologies involved in cancer research, Western blot, and everything. And I was too young that time, and got very excited with this research career. And then, but looking back at the students, how they do the PhDs, they take like forever, 5 to 6 years. I was like, no, this is not what I want to do for 5 to 6 years, although I'm very interested in it. So I tried to just look for some jobs which are related, like quality control job. But then I just did those jobs for like 2 months, and then I was not very happy in it. And then medical representative job, which I just did the training, and then I thought that which I was doing in Cancer Research Institute was much better, and that was very exciting. Then I went back and started looking for opportunities and for PhD. And then there was a PhD program, DAE fellowship in Baba Atomic Research Center, BRC. I didn't get through that, but there was a collaborative research program between Nanavati Hospital and BARC, which was on radiation biology and cancer treatment, like
Okay, so
predicting radio response in cancer
nine
patients.
on my mind.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. So that was the like then that is the PhD research started in Park with the collaboration between Dr. Nagaraj Hilgul, which was a chief oncologist in Nanavati Hospital. And it was very exciting to work on cancer research for like 5.5 years in BRC. And that was predicting radio response in cancer patients. I used to get biopsies of cancer patients, cervical cancer ladies, and I used to check some of the associated biomarkers which can be used for predicting radio response. And after PhD, I got a chance, since it was in radiation biology program, I went to Hiroshima for radiation biology conference, and the chief there, he offered me a position in Tokyo University, which was a research fellow position, again working on leukemia research. And I was excited. I went there. Some of my friends came to US, but I chose to go there because I was very close to my parents, and I thought that it's better to be in like little close by in Japan and not to move all the way to USA. So I did kind of 10 months there. I had like a very nice time in Japan. And then my parents were very supportive for me to do everything for doing PhD. First few years, I did not had any fellowship. First 2 years, then I got a Atomic Energy Regulatory Board fellowship in later years. But after my PhD, they really wanted me to get married first. So, so I got married to a IT person who was already in Atlanta for 4 years before I came to Atlanta. So he was there from 2003. So Sharad was in IT in Rolta company, and then he switched to Infosys. So after coming to Atlanta, again my passion was to check for a postdoctoral fellowship. I got into one postdoctoral fellowship in Tampa, which was in Lee Moffitt Cancer Institute. But since it was far from Atlanta, we didn't go for that. I mean, that was too much balancing all family and work thing. I again started looking for a postdoctoral fellowship in Emory University. And I got into an infectious disease laboratory. They were working on retroviruses and all. So this retrovirus, this was like in xenotropic murine leukemia virus in cancer patient, prostate cancer patient. So there was a cancer biology involved, but slowly I was switching to virology and infectious diseases. And but I don't have any regrets because I enjoyed all that learning. Because although I was from cancer biology background, getting to learn more about infectious diseases there in Emory University. And then second postdoc was in Clark, Atlanta. That was a short postdoctoral position, learning about health disparities in prostate cancer and looking at genetic changes, the single nucleotide polymorphism in some of the genes, which is especially in African American and not in Caucasians. So after that postdoc, I got a research scientist position in Georgia Tech. So I was in that position, Georgia Tech. I was long time there for working on mRNA vaccine therapy. So I think myself like very fortunate to get into that lab. I published a lot of papers there, and that was like mRNA came into really had more importance after the pandemics, but the work was going on for like 20 years on mRNA research. So maybe the technology transfer was done fast in the industry, but we had when I was in Georgia Tech, we had a lot of collaborations with Moderna and then Sanofi, and we were working on characterizing yellow fever virus that time. But because that was the question for COVID came later in 2020. Um, but I was fortunate to learn a lot of things in those labs. And then I was, after a long time in academia, I moved to industry position in Cygnus Technology. That was for a year, I was working on RT-qPCR test, developing and making the test more sensitive. That was the virus clearance test to make sure that because FDA requirement is we should have the products which is like cleared from all viruses. So this virus clearance test really helps that during the downstream processes. Then after that, I got a position in NIAID, in NIH, that is again in infectious biology, infectious diseases. And here I'm working in the BSL-4 containment lab, and I have like a team which can work who works on like all infectious viruses. SARS-CoV-2 is BSL-3, but some viruses which are like really a biodefenses viruses like Nipah and Ebola, we work on that. And this work is literally really little challenging because we have to wear a very heavy suit, and then it's like a lot of policies. We have to come out like have shower, chemical shower, then have personal shower, and it becomes sometimes very challenging to work in that kind of atmosphere. But then but yeah, but things are very interesting. I'm looking at host virus interaction and also trying to build chips, because as per the FDA new modernization act, we should have like we should avoid using non-human primates from animals for the studies, and non-human primates are not very good predictor of clinical studies. So the alternative solution is use chips, lung chips, which can mimic the human body nicely, our human organ, and that's what I'm doing. I'm doing building up lung chips, brain chips, organoids. So I'm into that field. And apart from all these scientific things, I have a lot of passion for music. My daughter is learning Hindustani classical music, and along with her, I'm also learning classical music. And with that, I also got an opportunity to serve as a senior citizen coordinator in Baltimore Marathi Mandal. And that time, I think it was last year, I was a senior citizen coordinator, and I led a musical program to showcase talent of local talent, which was Swar Sandhya. And I also working on having a talk series. And the first talk series we had, Kaka was the speaker, and I got to know about Shri Kaka from one of my friend in Atlanta, and he had sessions in Atlanta, and I thought he will be the best person the way he is working for the community services. And we had his first talk, and then there were later I had a couple of talks of his friends, Dr. Shekhar Mainil and Dr. Vikram Patakini, and then I did some pranayam classes, and then later on, with due to time schedule and all, I'm sometime looking at the recordings and doing it. But then my husband and my daughter is really regularly they're doing yoga, and especially my daughter, she is learning, not only learning yoga, but also she learned from Kaka how to teach it. At that age of middle school, they're getting that opportunity. That is so exciting that she is teaching now in Shri Yoga's kids group. And yeah, that is all about myself, my family, and my daughter who was and I have a younger one who is 8 years old, who is in second grade. So with all this, it is, yeah, I'm very happy and fortunate to meet Kaka and be a part of Shri Yoga. Thank you, Kaka.
Thank you very much, Sushma. And it's really nice that to learn about many different things that you do. So it's just amazing. And again, her daughter is also excellent. She sang in that in the recent programs, and also teaching adults yoga. That's something that at that age, getting that experience is wonderful. Okay. So thank you very much. Okay. Next we have Padmaja, and so Padmaja, do you want me to just keep the slides now, or when do you want me to?
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Okay. So let me share the slides that she had. Okay. Yeah. So okay. Again, thank you, Padmaja. I probably know her for about 5 years, and through different contacts, and but it's just amazing how many things she does. And also, I met both Padmaja and her mom at a friend's place, and it's just both of them were just, I was very impressed by what they do, and so I just thought of inviting her for this session. So go ahead, Padmaja.
Thank you. Thank you, Shriji. And it was nice to meet you. My cousin Vinaka and Rao, they introduced me to you. And so I'm so grateful. And I feel I have known you for a long time because you are a divine soul. That's all I can say. My parents were born in Andhra Pradesh, either side of the Krishna River. Those days, they never used to give across the river. So this was very unusual because my mom didn't have her father. So that's how it happened. But my dad was studying in Lucknow. My mom's cousin also was studying in Lucknow. And then there was a discussion. If the girls study, they are not good housewives, and they are very,
Sorry, Padmaja, can you unmute yourself? I was trying to do something, but
okay. Yeah, so that was the conversation, and my mom's cousin said, no, my cousin is very good. She is studying in Presidency College, Masters. Out of 60 students, she had only 2 girls, and she's so humble. My dad got interested. That's when he told his father. That's how the marriage happened. And my father was in a transferable job in the government, Indian government. And first, that's how I was born in Visakhapatnam. He was posted there then to Kerala, Madras, and then back to Delhi. So most of during the time when he was having a transfer, I grew up with my grandma in Andhra. So I learned Hindi there, but you know, how yeah, hi, like that, I used to pronounce, the pronunciation. So when I came back to Delhi at my 5th grade, everybody made fun of me and I cried, but then it all went away over the period of time. So from 6th grade, I was there in Delhi. My BSc, Masters, and PhD all happened there. And I was always wanted to do, I was interested in plants, botany, but there was a lot of politics in botany department. That's why I went to zoology, and I loved all the aspects of what I learned there. And I think I want to tell Madhuri that one of my colleague, Professor Thelma Kuttappa, she would love to hear from you because she's into fetal genetic testing to help in India. So, and she was a scientific advisor to the Indian government also. And she's going to retire soon, but she has still a passion about it. I will talk to you later. And then after finishing my PhD in 1989, I joined molecular biology at Tata Energy Research Institute, where I learned molecular biology, and we were doing brassica species, and it was a real fun activity there. And then what happened was, whenever we had to do any research, it used to take 6 months to get our chemicals from Sigma enzymes. So we said, and then when we wrote papers, they said, why did you not do this? Why did you do this? So I thought, okay, I need to go to US and see what grade they are doing. So that's when I applied. Because my work was X chromosome inactivation, which involves epigenetics. So that's when I applied for epigenetic postdoctoral fellowship in University of Kentucky, Lexington. And that was my first year. Before, I want to tell Kaka that I learned at the age of, when we were in 6th grade, yoga. So I was very much into it. But when I was doing yoga, I always felt I could smell chandan. I don't know why. What is the connection between that? I don't know. But then the same thing when I visited Sat Sai Baba in Puttaparthi, the same thing happened. I don't know what it was. I had to figure it out. And then after University of Kentucky, I went to NIH because my sister was in, we are 3 sisters. I'm the middle one, and the elder one is a PhD, and younger one also PhD. My mom wanted to do PhD, but then I know every woman has to focus on the children. So for 12, 14 years, she was at home rearing us. And now she said, I have 3 PhDs. So that was her way of expressing. But then she did work at Indian Institute of Public Administration, and it was, teaching all the IAS officers from theory to practice and facilitating how to apply it. That was her job. And so when they retired, they came here. And then I worked in NIH on gene therapy and in NINDS and melatonin biology and ICHD. And it was a very discovery field I was working in. And then I went to biotech because my visa was, I had a green card, but I didn't have a citizenship. They said, you go back and come back. So that's when I went into biotech for 4 years, and I really loved what we did. We were doing all the, what we did was basically from the fetal tissues according to standards we did, and then grew the cells and make sure that all the neurogenesis, that's what we were studying, because most of the neural drugs, they are either neurogenesis or apoptosis. So and we had 2, 3 INDs that went, but then because of 9/1, our 9/11 time, who was funding us in the neural stem, he passed away. So I had to, my boss started another company, Neuronascent. I worked for a while. During that time, I also worked as a microbiology adjunct faculty, teaching microbiology. And it was a fun activity teaching here in the academics. And then after that, I moved to FDA. I'm now working on pharmacogenetics, and I know Madhuri, I would a lot of things, and also I think Sonali. So it is basically pharmacology. What we do is when the sponsors give us their data, we make sure if the pharmacokinetics means what the drug does to us, pharmacodynamics, what we do to the drug. So PK/PD, if there's a genetic factor during the drug mechanism of action, we make sure that response, safety and efficacy response are there. And recently, the Cures Act has passed before Trump came. That was where science was progressing very fast. But at point of care setting, it was not being used. So that time, Rick Padzer, who was an oncologist, he made sure he asked sponsor the right questions. So when they used to lump all the lung cancer into one bucket. But based on the clinical features and the molecular typing, if you categorize the lung cancer into different buckets, the efficacy increased from 35 to 85%. That is the reason we have Oncology Center of Excellence, Neurology Center of Excellence, Immunology Center of Excellence, and now we are going to have model drug design. Modeling and stimulation also is going to come up. So all these things have because the bipartisan agreement on Cures Act. So it's been implemented slowly, and we have much more to look. And then I know recently my sister was saying her friends, she was 33 years old with two-year daughter. She passed away last week, and it's aggressive cancer. So I'm hoping in the future, like genetic testing and sequencing, maybe we can intervene somewhere. So I'm hoping that in the next generation, we'll be disease-free. So over this whole period of time, in 1989, once I finished, one of my my sister's, advisor, Professor Pandit and Krishna Auntie, they were in Puttaparthi. One of the reasons they were there in Puttaparthi, they said, you should come with us. Now you finished your PhD, come. I was ready to go anywhere. So I went to Puttaparthi for the first time. And Baba, Shriji, you can move to the next slide. And then Baba, first time, in the discourse, he said, you have to do only two things. Help ever, hurt never, love all, serve all. I said, Baba, I like to help, but I get hurt. Why? For a long time, I was thinking about this. Then I realized I get hurt because I'm expecting something back. You have to help without selflessly. That is these two sayings are the essence of all religions. There is no difference. All religion is the procedures, processes, but it's a human behavior. Like Shankaracharya says, the grammar, grammatic, everything. But if you don't behave, what is the use? When the Chandala came in front of him, he's asked him, who are you? Why you are doing that? So it's the same way I realized that these two I had to follow throughout my life. In those things, I was trying to observe in my friends and everybody. And when I came in 89, the Student Association, University of Kentucky, from Salisbury, Swami Dayanand Saraswati was invited. He talked about Gita. He said, we just need 51 square feet of thing. That's where we will be buried. Why we are going after this? And I said, oh yeah, that's it. So I need to read Gita. That's how I got into, because I missed my parents, because when you are in India, you're so protected. And you don't know of any other things. I learned many things when I was doing yoga in India, but when I came here, I did aerobics. I said, okay, that'll be good. It was fun for some time, but I loved yoga because I will tell you further how I got more interested in that. And then there were only 10-15 families in Lexington, Indian families, and they had Gita sessions every time. And one of the family was Malayal Swami devotee who was from Kerala. He came to Tirupati and said, Vedas can be learnt by everybody. This is so, here you can see Swami Vidyanandagiri Swami. He was 5 years old. His parents came from North India, and he was, knows now Telugu so much you cannot think, but he's no more now. But a few years passed, he passed away. He taught us, first thing when he came to us, he said, because he was like Gandhiji, so much cold, but he would walk early morning, and then he was sitting in Padmasana, and then some of us in the hearing, we were doing here and there. He said, first thing is ahara vihara. You have to have how much you have to do. Those will help you to have your body. Then you can listen to all the spiritual things. So that's how he was saying, and he granted Diksha of Krishna, and then after that I follow the same mantra, and the meaning of the mantra I came to later with Baba, who told in the whole discourse, So then after that I met Ganapati Sachinanda Swami. First time I heard his music, I fell asleep. And then there I met Kalire. She was an American, but she knew yoga because she talked to Sachidananda Swami. She said, you are my aunt in previous life. You are come to teach the children in the US yoga. So she was wonderful. She taught me and so many things. And then after that, I had to move to DC, where I met Ammachi, the hugging saint. And I cannot believe because I'm trying to find love all, serve all, who is practicing, who is in all these, I was always trying to connect how one can follow this. It's so difficult. I saw her in that she was that embodiment. I knew like she was following that example. Then she gave me Durga mantra. Next year, all the same year, I met Karunamaya Amma. She was like Saraswati. I didn't know you can be so sweet. The way she knew about yogas and everything, I cannot stop praising her. But then after that, I met Raitasha, because when I was working with Ammachi, she used to stay in DC, and that lady knew I was very spiritual. So she used to call me when any spiritual person come to her house. She said, you should meet Raita. I said, who is she? I don't know. She said, you should come. And that time there was East Germany, West Germany war going on. Somebody asked, why there's all this war and all these things? She said, always don't focus on the negative. There's this thing of more golden light flowing. You have to focus on the positive. I really like, and she liked me. She said, Padmaja, can you illustrate some books? She wants to tell the spiritual stories through animals and things like for children. So we connected so much. I drew like 3 or 4 illustrations for her, and as a volunteer. And then I met Shrima. She was like an energy. She's now in California. And Kalire asked me to translate Ganapati Sachinanda's book from Telugu to English. But then I didn't have such much grasp of Telugu. So in that, Ganapati Sachinanda says, whole world is gone into 7 continents. First, it was Gondwana and Laurasia, which we study in evolution. Then it split into 7 continents. Where Matanga Muni did, it is Germany. Where Kapila Muni did the tapasya, it is California. Then whole world is one family. It was all separated by different things. So everything came through many of the divine souls. And then I met Mother Meera. She just in silence, she gave me so much of energy, just touching my head. And then I met Vastu Guru, Swami Manjulanandji, and he wanted help in translating from Hindi to English for some reasons. So I went with him. So many experiences in Vastu consultation in architecture. And I knew about Ravi Shankar ji when I went to visit Swami, when I had the interview with Swami. That time, one of the Uncle Subbarau's friend, they had gone into Ravi Shankar. I went to Ravi Shankar ashram and saw the Vastu creation, how he did homas sitting in the, not in the ground, but on the sand, and then have the Sri Chakra and other things. And it was so beautiful, and I cannot explain. That time I wanted to learn Sudarshan Yoga, but I couldn't. But learned in 2014 when I met in 10 years ago in Bangalore. So it was wonderful. And even in Boone, I met him with Ayurveda retreat. I talked about it. And then after that, Mohanji, that time I was very much upset because my mom had breast cancer. So I asked him, and he consoled me that it is a way of life, and it was help. And then when I myself had some issue, my cousin said, you should join yoga. And that's how I met Shriji. And he's also another divine soul who helped me. And of all of the people, I want to thank my parents. And it seems from the Nadi Shastra, we are born, rebirth is there in Hindu, I believe it. And then they told me my parents were in the previous life also. They were my same parents. That's why I'm so much attached to them. They're no more now. But recently my mom passed away. That's why Shriji I couldn't attend. And so with knowing all this knowledge, how do we have to head in the forest, hands in the society? That's what Baba says. So that's what I'm trying to help. With all the things I said, I can help the children because they're like... clean slates, so we can help them. I don't want them to be more advanced and useful to the society. So the human values program, I teach from 96 to present, different age groups from 6 to 16. And also the same principles, we use Sanatan Dharma to children for Sri Karunamai Satsang from during the COVID time in Zoom. And then at work, I work with the Bring Your Child to Work Day, DNA to Pharmacogenomics, with a lot of fun hands-on activity. And that is going to happen again in April. And then over the years, Sai group always have many service activities, DC Homeless Shelter, Rockville Women's Center, many of these activities. Only one incident I want to tell is about when we were serving in the DC, Washington, DC, one person was there, standing there, and one of our children said, I also want some job. You're all doing so busy, I want something. I said, okay, go and give to everybody the water bottle. He went and he was so happy, like he got a prize. He was so happy giving all the people standing in the line. One person said, if my mom had taught me to do this service, I would not be standing in the line. You think we are the spiritual people? There are many, they connect, but who is the giver and who is the taker? Everybody is Narayana, Narayana, only cry for God, nobody else. So that was the many spiritual truths, what the truths they say. If you work in the community, we understand. I do drawing and painting and won many awards. And then I had done the Vastu and the health with the grace of Guru. And then the meditation and yoga I love, and then reads many of the biographies and spiritual beings of saints and sages. And the first one is one of the activities we had with the SSC children, Sai Spiritual Education. And this is one of the graduating students. And Baba's mother, Ishwaramma Day, we celebrate our children's graduation. And then these are the other two are at the work, how I teach them DNA to pharmacogenomics. Thank you for listening, and thank you, Shriji, for everything and all the community and family.
Thank you very much, Padmaja. There is a lot that you are. I didn't want to stop you because we have so many things to share. And so next one is Gia, and Gia will stay as long as you want to talk. Okay, don't worry about the time limit. Okay. So let me replace the spotlight. I know we have the meditation, but I'm going to have the meditation by recording by Chetna. And so I think so. Go ahead, Gia. So sorry about the delay, but I would like to hear from you. And one thing about Gia is she always has a very smiley face. Everyone loves when she attends. She attends pranayam. Pranayam is difficult in the morning, but the chair yoga and also the meditations in the evenings, and whenever she attends or easy class sometimes, but whenever she attends, the smiling face just makes everyone happy. So go ahead, Gia, and I'm sure she has lots of things to tell us. Okay. Okay.
So I had some internet issues. I'm hoping, my fingers are crossed, that it'll be okay. So first and foremost, I'd sincerely like to express my heartfelt gratitude to Sriji for the dynamic and dedicated service that he's providing to such a vast group of people. So thank you so much. And I heard about Shri Yoga through a friend a little over 2 years ago, and it has been and it continues to be such a wholesome experience participating in different sessions. So, a big shout out to all of the teachers also for their dedication and support. And I also want to a round of applause to all the ladies who shared their journey. It's been very inspiring listening to all of you. My name is Gia Chandy, and I live in Plano, Texas, near Dallas. I'm a Tamilian, but I consider myself a Pakka Mumbaikar or a Bombayite. It's been such a blessing to have been raised in such a diverse city and in a place like Santa Cruz, where one is exposed to so many different languages and so many different cultures. I went to Mitibai College in Parla and got a degree in philosophy and psychology. Honestly, I did not have any career aspirations. I did work in the advertising industry in Mumbai for about 3 years. The agency was called Concept Advertising, and I was helping with managing of the advertising for clients like Bank of India, Modella Suitings, and Borosil Glassware, which is like the Pyrex ware. So it was an interesting venture to write slogans for the ads. Then I got married and came to the US.
Looks like she has internet problem. The person that you see, Mr. Guha and Ragini, Mr. Guha is her brother. Yeah. And they also attend very regularly. So hope, Gia, you can.
1978, Texas Tech University.
So, Gia, you are having some internet problems, looks like. So while she's, so it looks like that may be a problem, but
Can you hear me?
yeah, but there's a
I'm
time lag.
back.
Yeah, go ahead. Okay, good, good. Go ahead.
Okay,
No, looks like you have problem there. Okay. So why don't we do this, Mr. Guha? Can you tell more about Gia? And about the music that her son is playing and
Yes.
yeah, okay.
Shriji, Namaskar, good evening. Thank you so much. Yes, it is my privilege and pride to talk something about my wonderful sister, Gia. Her actual name is Lakshmi, and she was fondly called Gia by my father. But coming back to Gia, she has been one of the people who have been so focused in what she does, and she does excel in what she does. And we all in the family were very blessed to have my mother, who was a very, very renowned and wonderful Carnatic music teacher. And for almost 60 years of her life, she taught over 700 students. And our house was fully a musical house, and we all were inspired. And Gia took it to another level. and made it very, very a big path in her life for her, body or healing and sharing it with people, especially in the United States when she came and supported totally by.
Can you hear me?
Wonderful.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
I can hear you, Gia.
Yeah, you can take over.
You can take over. Yes, please.
We're filling in the gap.
Okay. Okay, Gia, go ahead. Sorry. Okay. And yeah, Mr. Goha and Ragini, I'm going to have you sometime on Shri Yoga, so you can talk
Absolutely.
about yourself.
No problem. Gia,
Sure.
go ahead, dear.
Okay, I don't know what spectrum. Okay, anyway, sorry about the confusion. Blame it on spectrum. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So I was mentioning that I was working for concept advertising, and it was a lot of fun, writing slogans for the ads for Bank of India and for, Borosil glassware. Then in 1978, I got married and came to the United States. And my husband was finishing his PhD in finance at Texas Tech University in Lubbock. I worked some odd jobs, but for the most part, I was very happy being a stay-at-home mom when my kids were in preschool. Then when my kids started elementary school, I decided to enroll in the university where my husband was a professor. I liked teaching, so I thought a degree in elementary education sounded practical because my thinking was I get holidays when they have holidays. So like a slow, local train that stops in all stations in Bombay. I took 2 courses every semester. So after 2 semesters, I experienced some vocal cord problems. And my university advisor suggested that I go get some voice therapy. He asked me to go to the speech and hearing department. And I had never heard about this field. So after 1 semester of voice therapy, I was so impressed by the program, I decided to switch my major to speech pathology. I think I enjoyed every class that I had in the university. It was such an incredible experience going to college in this country. It was so different from the format in India, where we had to memorize and cough it all up during exam time. So it was truly a refreshing experience going to college here. And then the crowning moment came when there was a double graduation. My daughter finished high school, and I too got my degree at the same time. I worked as a speech pathologist for about 20 years in an elementary school. And what is very gratifying to work in an elementary school is you catch them when they are young and you're able to help them build their communication skills. And you get to witness the progress during the early stages. And each student I worked was so unique. I learned so much from my students. During the 20 years, I got to work with countless students with a variety of communication disorders, such as autism, Down syndrome, stuttering disorder, speech sound production disorders, intellectual disability, learning disability, emotional disturbance, attention deficit disorder, and so on. And while some of these kids needed therapy beyond elementary school, I also witnessed several students who graduated successfully from speech therapy and got their diploma. And coming from an Indian background, the therapy strategies that I used were kind of hatke. It was not your, a lot of the peers who used, a lot of my colleagues, they had their way of doing therapy where they would use art and things like that. I chose things like pranayama, for example, to help with attention deficit disorder and to help them learn calming techniques. And then I used music extensively in my therapy sessions. So this is a good time for me to talk about music. I grew up in a house where there was music that it was flowing regularly. My mom was a well-trained Carnatic musician and she was an excellent teacher. She had several batches of students, young kids and adults who would come home and learn, Carnatic music. I too learned some music from her, but I must admit I didn't do as much riyas. Maybe because it was my mom and I took it for granted. And when I came to this country, I did teach some Carnatic music to youngsters, but I had to put it aside when I started working. I retired from the school earlier than planned because of the pandemic. But hey, I have no regrets. Retirement has been so wonderful because it opened up doors to do several other activities, such as teaching Carnatic music. Except that now I'm teaching it more as a form of therapy. And this is mainly to a handful of friends and relatives. And like one of my students, she had breathing issues because of long term COVID. And then music started to help her with building breath support. I'm also continuing to do volunteer work with my speech therapy. And it's mainly through word of mouth to friends and acquaintances who need guidance and strategies for their children or for their grandchildren who have communication difficulties. I've also been an advocate of early intervention and have helped some Indian families to help seek an evaluation for their kids if I see a need for it. I notice a lot of them are in denial sometimes, and they keep thinking that when the kid goes to kindergarten, everything will be fixed. So I'm trying to get them to move away from the stigma of being evaluated and just being aware that early intervention helps big time. The other thing that I've been wanting to do, and I've gotten a chance to do it now, is to go back to reading. During the pandemic, a lot of our friends would get together and we thought that let's use our time, have fun, but also use it wisely, especially as we are growing, to be able to learn new things, to read new stuff, and just broaden our knowledge. So we started a book club, about 12 of us, and we choose a title. Each one of us gets to choose a title for the year. And then we meet once a month and discuss about the book. And it's been wonderful to talk freely about express our thoughts and discuss the book that we read without feeling that, oh, we're going to, hurt somebody's feelings because we are disagreeing. So we, in fact, encourage, you know, disagreement. And we feel that's the way to grow. I also want to share a little bit about my family. My father was in the Bollywood film industry in Mumbai, working as a cameraman initially, but then he subsequently switched jobs and he joined Kodak as a color consultant when Eastman Color was first introduced in India in, I think, around 1951. My mom, as I mentioned, graduated with a degree in Carnatic music from Chennai, and she was an institution by herself, in Santa Cruz. And I guess my parents' careers organically influenced the careers on their kids as well. My oldest brother studied film direction from the Film Institute in Pune in the same batch as Nasiruddin Shah and Om Puri. My younger brother Guha, who you got to meet, he is in Atlanta and he also worked in the recording industry. And some of you may know his wife Ragini, who regularly participates in Sriji's programs. And my youngest brother is also a creative music organizer, and he heads a music program called Leap in India, where he is involved in working with children. Chandy and I have 2 kids. Our daughter is a dentist in Austin, and she's also a singer in an Afro pop music band. And our son, who was born and brought up here in Texas, he graduated with a degree in music arrangement. And for the past 10 years, he has been working in Chennai with A.R. Rahman. So and I just want to say that I also want to add that I'm a breast cancer survivor, and I continue to counsel those who are going through, the process, the treatment process, and just help empower them to take things in stride. So.
Thank you very much, Gia. And as you can see, that's a music family. And Mr. Guha is also, I will have him talk sometime because he has worked in studios where the music recording, managing the music recording, and he has, encounters with, he has met Lata Mangeshkar, Asha Bhosle, and so on, many other, music people. So sometime I will invite you also. Okay. So anyway, all of you, thank you very much. And sorry, Ramchandra, the meditation session is continuing with recording right now. But overall, it's very nice that I learned a lot about all of you, and it's just I'm so happy that so many of these talented people are attending Shri Yoga, and so we'll continue this series with more people and just learning more about what the Shri Yoga community is. So thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you, Kaka. Thank you so much.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you
Thank you
so
very
much.
much.
Yeah, this
Thank
was
you,
wonderful.
Kaka.
Thank you. Thank you.
And happy Holi to all.
Thank
Happy-
you, everybody.
Yeah, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Great journeys, all of you.
Wonderful. Everybody
Yes.
did a good job. I learned a lot.
Everyone, yeah.
And
Thank
I
you,
had
Gia.
So did
Thank
I.
you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Nice
you,
to see
everybody.
you.
That was wonderful.
Bye.
highly
Padmaja, nice to
educated
see
people.
you.
Now
Yeah.
I feel shame of myself.
Never.
don't feel that way. I'm Jerry or something like that.
Not at all. You should not.
I feel the same way.
No.
Namaste, Shri sir. Bye bye.
Namaste, namaste.
Happy Holi,
Namaste.
everybody.
Happy Holi.
Bye.
Happy Holi, everyone.
Thank you,
Happy
everyone.
Holi.
Bye-bye.
Happy
Hello.
Holi.
Bye.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Just wanted
Good
to
night.
Everybody.
I wanted to mention that there are quite a few people from Atlanta here. So
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
and
that is
Guha,
true. Yes.
also Sushma Bhosle, she was from Atlanta
Yes.
originally, and
Okay.
Swati
Yeah.
is, her son is in Atlanta.
Yeah,
So
my son is in Atlanta.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah, he works
We
in
should-
Piedmont Hospital.
Oh, wow. We should, Atlanta group should meet up.
Yes.
that's
I am a good patient in Piedmont Hospital.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
And
I'm in
actually,
Maryland for 3 years, but I was in Atlanta for almost 14 years.
Oh my
So
God.
do miss Atlanta.